This is the second part of my video. Thank you for tuning into the second part so you can hear more about my opinions, because your opinion is irrelevant. I'm just kidding. I value your opinion. Please post your opinion, unless it's like really mean, and then don't post your opinion because I don't feel like crying today. Alright, so where did we leave off? So the next park that I'm going to talk about is Hollywood Studios. And Hollywood Studios is kind of similar to what California Adventure used to be like. If you guys have ever been to Disney's California Adventure, you know that obviously it is a park themed around California, which is kind of crazy because you're already in California. So, I don't know. Hollywood Studios, I didn't go there that often because it was my least favorite park at Disney World. So the main rides at Hollywood Studios are the Rock and Roller Coaster, the Hollywood Tower of Terror, and Toy Story Mania and Star Tours. I'm having troubles because there isn't much to do at Hollywood Studios. And if you ask I never heard any CP say that Hollywood Studios was their favorite park. None. Because there's nothing to do there except for Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror. And I know that I said that Toy Story Mania and Star Tours were main rides there, but that's saying a lot because nobody ever gets on those. One, because Toy Story Mania is never shorter than like a 2-hour wait. And Star Tours is like, you get on it once, you've been on it a million times, so what's the point? So, Hollywood Studios, I think Hollywood Studios is more focused around shows than it is rides. I know that they had the Indiana Jones show there. I never saw it. Like I said, I didn't spend too much time at Hollywood Studios. Rock and Roller Coaster is amazing. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite rides at Disney World altogether. But that is like, when you go into Hollywood Studios, you go to the right. That's where Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster are. So 90% of the time that I went to Hollywood Studios, I would go to that corner, get on those 2 rides, and then leave because that's all I wanted to do. Rock and Roller Coaster is a roller coaster that's inside, kind of like Space Mountain. It's super fast. It's like Space Mountain in California. That's kind of the feel of it because it's indoors, it's dark, and it's really fast. It is Aerosmith themed, so the band Aerosmith. So while you're on the ride, you will be listening to Aerosmith songs, and it is like you're driving on the interstate in California. So you'll see like Highway 5, and like it's funny because nobody knew what that was about except for me because I was like the only person from California. That's not true, but most people that do the college program in Florida are not from California because most people that are from California do the program in California, but I didn't want to do that. The difference between the Tower of Terror in Florida and in California, there actually is a lot of differences. So the one in California doesn't have that whole like middle section of the ride. Okay, so in California, you literally get in that little elevator thing, or not elevator, but the like library, study, ballroom thing, whatever, you go in first and watch the little video. Then you go, you either go upstairs or you stay on that level, and there's elevators upstairs and there's elevators like on that level. And you get in, you go up, watch a little thing, and then you go up and go down. That's how it is in California. In Florida, same stuff in the beginning, you watch the little video in the ballroom type thing, then you go in the elevator and it like moves. It like, you go to this one story, it opens up and the elevator moves, which is so weird because it's an elevator, so why does it do that? I don't know. It's not that I hated it, it's just I was a little confused as to why an elevator would go like forwards and backwards. But you go through like the hotel, and then you go to like the front part. So I think that like, because the elevator has to move to the front in order to go like up and down. The outsides of the buildings look a lot different too. The tower in Florida is more extravagant. It kind of looks like a castle, which is, it's really cool looking. It's really cool looking, but it doesn't look like it would be in Hollywood at all. The one in California looks more like it would be in Hollywood because it looks like a regular hotel type of thing. I mean, not a regular hotel, but more like the architecture in Hollywood. But then again, I've never been in Hollywood back in like the 30s or 20s, whatever, so I don't know what the architecture looked like back then. But anyway, still a good ride in Florida. Yeah, so solid ride, both parks. Different, but still really good. Toy Story Mania is at California Adventure in California, and I've been on it there. I never got on it in Florida because, like I said, the line is always like at least 2 hours long, and I didn't see the point in that. So I can't really tell you what the difference is. The only difference I know is that the line in California is manageable, and the line in Florida is not at all because it's a newer ride there, I guess. I don't know. But it's an awesome ride in California. I mean, it's really fun. Your arm will be really sore after, but it's really fun. So at Hollywood Studios, Fantasmic is in a stadium, which is very different than in California because it is, like I said, in the lake. So it's much different. In California, you kind of pick your spot. You get there early, you stand, or you sit on the ground. In Florida, which is actually kind of cool. In Florida, you have to get like a fast pass or something. Do you have to have a fast pass? I think you might have to have a fast pass. I'm not sure though. So yeah, I used my Magic Band. I got in. It's a stadium, which is cool. So you get to sit down. You know you're going to have a seat. They're not going to let you in if you're not going to have a seat. So that part's good. The water is not as big because it's not a lake. It's just like a stadium with water. The shows are different. So I actually can't say one is better than the other because they're very different. It's not the same show. In Disney World, they have more storylines. Or maybe it's not more storylines, they just changed it. So it's like instead of the Peter Pan, Captain Hook whole sequence like they have in Disneyland, they have like a Pocahontas section, which was pretty cool. I thought it was like really interesting because Pocahontas is not like one of the more popular characters. I mean, I know that people my age love Pocahontas, but like this newer Disney generation, people don't really talk about Pocahontas because she's not one of the like tiara wearing princesses, you know. So I thought that that was pretty cool. Peter Pan is a lot more popular, so I see why it makes sense to have that at Disneyland because people want to see Peter Pan. The show seems more large and larger scale and bigger and more extravagant in California. And I don't know if that is because you are like on the same level as the show in California because you're literally just looking straight ahead and it's in the lake. Whereas in Disney World, you're in a stadium looking down on the show. So I'm not sure if that has an effect on it or anything. I do know that the boat that comes out at the end with the characters, in California, that's the Mark Twain, and it's huge. So there's tons of characters. It's like every character, almost. Every Disney character is out on that boat at the end. Even like Steamboat Willie Mickey, like with the, you know, the black and white, he's on it. And so I thought that was awesome. In Disney World, the boat is much smaller. They don't have as many characters. It's still a really good show. Either way, really good show. Just different. Those shows are very different. They're not the same, so it's kind of hard to compare them. Other than that, I really don't have much to say about Hollywood Studios. I know another popular ride there is the Great Movie Ride. I got on it. Oh my god. It's like, I feel like you either love or hate that ride. It is so boring to me. It was cool maybe the first time. It's just so long. It's like a 15 to 20 minute ride. And it's like super slow. It's like you're on this huge like car type thing with like tons of people. And there's one tour guide type of person that leads you through all these like classic movies. So you go through the scenes and then they were talking. It's cool. Like I said, the first time it's cool, but it's just like, it's so boring. I can't. Like after I got on it one time, I was like, I don't want to get on that ever again. But yeah, that's pretty much it from Hollywood Studios. Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite Disney park, and people think I'm crazy for this, but Epcot! Woo! And I know that Epcot is probably only my favorite because I worked there. I did my program at Epcot. Sum of all thrills and inventions. Hey! But it is my favorite park. And I think I like it for the reasons that I also like Animal Kingdom. And that's because there's nothing like that at Disneyland. So it's just I'm walking into it completely fresh and like not knowing what's going to be there. So yeah, I love Epcot. So things to know about Epcot are the fact that the park is in 2 different parts. So there's the front, when you first come into the park, that's like the theme park, amusement park area, and it's called Future World. So that's where the rides are. Then if you go past all of that, there's the World Showcase, which is my favorite part of Epcot. And it is just a whole bunch of pavilions of different countries. And it is very, well, I don't know, I've never been outside of the country, but it seems authentic because they have international college program people that are from those countries working in each one. So there's like Japan, there's China, there's Italy, France, all these countries, and people from those actual countries work in those pavilions, which is awesome. And then not only that, but you can get food and drinks in those areas, and they are authentic to that country. And during the Food and Wine Festival, which happened during my program, it is even more amazing because they have even more countries that are set up in little like stands throughout the World Showcase that have different food. It'll be some of the best food you have in your life. It is so awesome. And not only that, but they have like Eat to the Beat, so they have different concerts every night of Food and Wine. For like a month and a half, almost 2 months, they have like a different performance every night. Boys to Men is always the highlight of Food and Wine. I went every night that they were there, and it was awesome. And I was totally a fangirl. But it is, I love Epcot. It is amazing. Future World, I like it because it's going to be nostalgic for me because I worked there. But I don't know. Future World seems like something out of the 80s. It seems like they built it in the 80s and then they thought it was futuristic and then they never changed it. So it's just super like outdated. Innoventions at Epcot is much different than it is at Disneyland. Unfortunately, they just closed Innoventions. I don't know what they're putting there at Disneyland, but Innoventions isn't there anymore. But Innoventions in Disneyland used to be a huge building in Tomorrowland, and it was 2 stories. Disney World, Epcot, Innoventions is 2 different buildings that are across from each other. So you have Innoventions West and you have Innoventions East. I worked in Innoventions East. So that's different. Same kind of stuff inside, except for the fact that I worked at an attraction inside of Innoventions. And in California, there was no ride or anything like that in Innoventions. The main rides in Future World, or I can just actually name pretty much all of the rides because there aren't that many. So on Future World East, they have Mission Space and Test Track and Ellen's Energy Adventure. And just quick synopsis of those. So Test Track is kind of like Radiator Springs Racers, but instead of it being themed towards cars, it is like you're a test track dummy. So you get to like design a car, and then you get in a car and you just like test out the different functionalities or functions of a car, which is pretty cool. But the inside part of the ride is not anything special. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool if you want to see like if the car that you build is like a good car, but the fun part of Test Track is when you go outside and you actually like go really fast and you're not racing another car like how it is at Radiator Springs Racers. Why is that so hard to say? Radiator Springs Racers. You're not racing a car, but you're just going super fast, so that part's fun. That ride is actually pretty fun. It's the most popular ride, one of the most popular rides at Epcot. The line was always pretty long. So then Mission Space, I hated this ride. It's a simulator, and the ride that I worked at was also a simulator, but it was like not as intense as Mission Space. So I got on Mission Space one time, and there are 2 different levels. So there's orange and green, and I think orange is the more intense level, and green is the more, or is the less one, but I don't know. I could have mixed those up. All I know is that there's one that's intense and one that's less intense. And so the whole concept of the ride is like, I think you're trying to go to Mars or something, and then you have to have like 4 people. So there's 4 people in your group, and each person has a different like job or task that they do in your like spacecraft. There's like a navigator, captain, something. I can't remember all of them. I only did it once because I hated it. But when you go in, there's going to be all these different like warnings And like, granted, every ride has a warning at Disney, but this ride will be like, warning, if you don't like tight spaces or you get motion sickness, please leave now. And it's like they remind you every 2 seconds. So I was starting to freak out, and I honestly am never afraid of rides. But I was already starting to have anxiety because they kept saying this. And I know that they just want to warn people, but oh my God, it like made it worse because I was so afraid. Then you get in and it's literally like 4 seats right next to each other, and then they close it. And it's like, the screen is like this close to your face and you can't even like move. So if you're claustrophobic, it is a nightmare. I'm not even claustrophobic, and I was starting to like freak out. There's like, they tell you that there's like a sickness bag that you can basically barf in if you get sick. But you can't move, so I don't understand how you would throw up in it. Like, it was crazy. I don't know how they make it feel like this. I heard that like you're spinning really fast, so it makes it feel like you're like going, I don't know. It's so weird, but it felt like my heart was gonna explode. There's like a simulation where it feels like you're taking off and you literally feel like pressure, and it sucks. I hated it. But some people love it, but I hated it. I felt so nauseous for the rest of the day. I should have done the less intense one, but after I did the most intense one, I was afraid to even do the less intense one. So I can't tell you what that's like, but if you get motion sickness at all, or claustrophobic or anything like that, don't get on this ride. And even if you aren't, maybe think twice about getting on it, because I'm not prone to motion sickness and I'm not claustrophobic, and I hated this ride. So I'm just going to warn you with that. So then there's Ellen's Energy Adventure, which is exactly why I said that this park seems like it's in the 80s and just like staying there. Ellen's is like a 45-minute experience. You go in, there's a video, and when I say Ellen's, I mean Ellen DeGeneres. She is like trying to learn stuff about energy. So you watch a video about that, and then you get in this like huge, almost like the Great Movie Ride. There's like seats, and they're huge. Like there's like, it's basically a whole theater, but the things like move, like the seats move, and you like drive through different points of time in history to learn about energy, and it's a 45-minute experience. I mean, it's cool to do it once. You should definitely do it once, but it's not something that you need to do more than that ever. Future World West has the seas with Nemo. The Nemo ride is completely different at Disney World than it is in Disneyland. The Nemo ride in Disneyland is a submarine, and you kind of go through where Nemo lived. In Disney World, it's kind of like the Little Mermaid ride, where you're like sitting in a shell. And it's actually, I like the one in Disney World a lot better, because you like go through and there's different scenes, and it's cooler than the submarine. The submarine is kind of, I don't know, it's cool, but it's like hot and claustrophobic, and you just like are looking out of a small window the whole time. Whereas the one in Disney World, you're like going through these scenes and you can like see all around you, and it's really cool. It's also like an aquarium in the seas. And I don't know if this is a rumor, but I heard that it's like either the biggest or the second biggest aquarium in the country. So that's cool. There's also Turtle Talk with Crush, which they also have at Disneyland. It's cool. It's like a guy talking in the back, but like the kids don't know. I mean, just kidding. It's Crush. It's really Crush, and Crush is talking to us. There is the Land, Living with the Land. Yeah. Which is like another super long ride where you go through and you learn about like agriculture. And then you go through like an actual real garden that Epcot has, and there's like, you know, people gardening, but it's like more sciencey. I can't think of the word for that right now. But there's all types of stuff that they're growing. It's really cool. Also, it's just really long. It's like a 20 to 30 minute ride, I think. I don't know what's up with Disney World and like super long rides. We don't have stuff like that at Disneyland. What else? There's also Soarin', and they have that in California. It's called Soarin' Over California, and I don't think it's called that in Florida. I don't think it's called Soarin' Over California. I think it's just called Soarin'. But for some reason, it's like the most popular ride at Epcot, which I find very weird because it's not at all in California. And it is the same, and it's exactly the same. It's like they picked up the ride in California and literally placed it in Florida. But I just think it's kind of weird because, and granted, I know that there's tons of things at Disney World that are California themed because California is where everything Disney began, as far as like, you know, the studios and the movies and Disneyland. So everything originated in California for the most part, so I understand that. But I just find it very strange that, you know, Soarin' is at Epcot because pretty much nothing else is California themed at Epcot. So it's kind of weird that you're in Orlando and you're Soarin' over California. But it is the same ride, so it's still cool. You get in and you're sitting in like a theater, you get in these seats, and then when it starts you go up and you're looking at the screen, so it's like the screen is all around you. So it's like to the point where it doesn't look like a screen. It looks like you're literally flying over California. And there's different scenes, like you're flying over like lakes or you're flying over like orange trees, and you can smell it, which is cool. That's my favorite part, is smelling the oranges. And then they also have Captain EO, which I love, but I heard they're taking that out of Disney World, and they already took it out at Disneyland. But I'm one of those weird people that loves Captain EO, and I actually have a Captain EO shirt and button. Don't judge me. But I love Michael Jackson and I love Disney, so when those two things come together, it creates awesomeness. And you cannot tell me that the Captain EO song is not amazing. So anyway, I love Captain EO. So, I mean, that wasn't really that popular. I never went to a show of Captain EO where it was like full. I don't know why people don't like it. Most of these kids these days don't even know who Michael Jackson was. But that's another story. So Epcot, I love it. I love Epcot. Go to Epcot. There's also a ride inside of the ball, and I didn't know that until I got there. It is called Spaceship Earth, and it is all about communication and how communication evolved, which I think I like it. Me likes it. I think it's awesome because I'm a communication major, so I find that very interesting. And then you like go in the ball and you like go all the way to the top and then you come all the way down, and it's awesome. So it's cool. Epcot's cool and it's underrated. Downtown Disney. The Downtown Disneys are completely different, Disneyland versus Disney World. Disneyland's Downtown Disney is much, 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 much smaller, just as everything else is at Disneyland. It's tiny compared to Disney World. So I will say one thing that is great about the Disneyland's Downtown Disney is the fact that it's right outside of the parks. I mean, that's the good thing about Disneyland in general, is that you leave Disneyland, you walk right across and there's California Adventure, and then you walk right outside and there's Downtown Disney. So it's all right there. You don't have to hop on a bus, a boat, a train, whatever you have to do when you're at Disney World. So that part is really good. Downtown Disney and Disneyland has same type of deal, shops, restaurants, there's a movie theater. They have House of Blues as well, but it's not as big. They have Earl of Sandwich, which is like new but awesome because they also have that at Disney World. At Disney World, Downtown Disney is like a city of its own. It's crazy. There's a bowling alley, there's tons of nice restaurants, shops, everything. Like it's pretty crazy. Like it's humongous. Like you would never, it's just humongous. They even have Cirque du Soleil. I never got to go, but it just seemed pretty awesome. And then House of Blues in Orlando is a much bigger deal than it is in California. In California, they have a lot more concerts there. In Orlando, we went every single week. On Sunday, it was like service industry night, so you got in for free. Wednesdays was it Way Back Wednesdays? Rewind Wednesdays. So they would play like early 2000s and 90s music. So fun. Like I said, we went every single week, and it was super fun. So Downtown Disney is both good in different ways. Downtown Disney in Orlando, you can spend almost a whole day there, whereas at Disneyland, it's kind of a pit stop. It's like when you're at the parks and you're hungry and want to go to like a sit-down restaurant, you just walk outside the park, go to Downtown Disney, eat lunch, and then go back to the parks. And then go back to Downtown Disney for dinner, and then go back to the parks. So that's kind of what Downtown Disney is in Disneyland. I can't say which one I like better because they're different. They're too different, and I don't know, it just depends on if I'm in a shopping mood or not. Disney World also has water parks. There's Typhoon Lagoon, and there is, what's the other one? Blizzard Beach, duh. I only went to Blizzard Beach. I never got to go to Typhoon Lagoon, but yeah, I mean, Disneyland doesn't have water parks. There's nothing to compare it to, but the fact that Disney World has two, that's unbelievable. But it was fun. It was really fun. I was there in the fall, so it was only hot during the first portion of my program, and then after that it was cold and the water parks were actually closed. So I didn't have much time to like actually go to the water parks, but I did go once and it was fun. The whole feel of Disneyland is much different than Disney World. When you go to Disney World, Disney World is the size of San Francisco. It's like 49 square miles or something crazy like that. So when you go to Disney World, you are in Disney World the whole time. I mean, that is it. And plus, Florida is much different than California in general. There are tons of trees and it's flat land, so you can't really see too far ahead of you, if that makes sense. All you see is trees and you see like what's right in front of you. Whereas in California, there's so many hills and not too much like wildlife because we have so many buildings everywhere that you can see everything. So like for instance, in Anaheim, when you're driving on the freeway, you can see Disneyland and you can see all of the rides from the freeway. In Disney World, you can't see it until you're like right there. And it's like you cross the street and you're at like Denny's at Disneyland. Whereas in Disney World, you have to drive a long time before you're in like the city of Orlando. So that's just different. I'm kind of on the fence about which one of those experiences I like better. I know a lot of people like the whole like being completely surrounded by Disney, and I know some people like the fact that Disneyland is like when I'm at the park, I'm at the park, and then when I leave, I'm in the real world. So it just depends on the person that you are. I'm not sure if everyone's program was like this, but mine was because I am from California and I also had a friend who worked with me who did a program in California first. So there was always this debate of which park is better, Disneyland or Disney World. And I was always team Disneyland when I was there the whole time. And it wasn't until I came back home and went to Disneyland that I was like, Disneyland isn't exactly what I thought it was when I went to Disney World. I still love Disneyland, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I've learned that the two parks are completely different. You cannot compare them. You can't say which park is better. It's like saying apples are better than oranges. It's completely different. Like you can't compare them. They're two different things. I feel like I'm a child of divorce, and it's like I love both my parents, but it depends on the day. Sometimes I want to visit my mom. Sometimes I want to visit my dad. Doesn't mean I love them any less. Great analogy, I know, right? Disneyland will always be my home park. Disneyland is my park. I grew up going there. I will always go there. I have an annual pass. I live in California. So California Disneyland is always going to be a big part of my heart. Disney World is always going to be the great experience that I had when I left home for 5 months and I met some of the greatest people I know and I was on my own, and that part of me will always love Disney World. So when people say I'm biased, I hope that they don't think I am anymore, because I love both parks and I love them in completely different ways. I think that if you are going with your family, you should go to Disneyland, because Disneyland is more suited towards, this is my opinion. I think that Disneyland is more suitable for families, especially families with small children, because you get to the park and you're there. You don't have to get on a bus, you don't have to get on a train, you don't have to get on a boat. You're at the park. You walk to Disneyland, you walk to California, you walk downtown Disney, and that's it. It's less stressful. Disney World, I think, is more suitable for, like, people my age. Like, I think Disney World is for teenagers up until older adulthood, because when you go there, there's just endless possibilities. You'll never be bored at Disney World, but if you're going with kids, that can be very overwhelming. It's just too much to do, and kids, especially young ones, they're not going to even remember. So what's the point of spending all that money and all that time? I mean, granted, if you live in Florida, it's right there. Of course, you're not going to fly all the way to California every time you want to go to a theme park. But it just seems like people were a lot more stressed at Disney World when they had families. And don't get me wrong, there's still going to be families that are like that at Disneyland, but it is a lot less in my opinion. But granted, I've never been a cast member at Disneyland. I've only gone as a guest. And at Disney World, I've only really been as a cast member because I had never gone there before my program. But my general impression is that Disney World is more stressful for parents with smaller children. But as a person in my 20s, going with my friends to Disney World was awesome because it was like, oh, where are we going to go today, you know? So I think as far as doing a program, I would much rather do a program at Disney World, because if I did a program at Disneyland, not only have I been to that park a million times, but going there every day for work, I know I would get so tired of it. And I'm not saying that I would ever be like, oh, I don't want to go to Disneyland, but I don't know. I just think that because I'm so used to that park being magical to me in a separate way, I don't think I would want to interfere with the magic of that park, because it'll always be my park. But I don't know, I love both parks, and it really depends on the person that you are. I know tons of people that like Disneyland better, and I know tons of people that like Disney World better. And I'm kind of stuck in the middle, and I like it that way because there are tons of things that I will go to Disney World for that I can't experience at Disneyland, and there's tons of things that I go to Disneyland for that I can never experience at Disney World. But I guess I'm lucky in the sense that I live in California and I have family in Florida, so I'll always have a reason to go to both. So I hope that this video didn't make you hate one of the parks over the other. Like I said, both parks are amazing. You should go and experience them, and your experience will be completely different than my experience, you know? So go. Definitely don't let my opinion change your opinion. But that's just kind of how I feel, and so I thought I'd make a video since I didn't go to Disneyland this weekend and I didn't get to vlog about it. So anyway, I will catch you guys another time, and please like and subscribe and comment and all that good stuff, and please let me know if you guys have any questions or any suggestions for videos that you would like to see in the future about the Disney College program. I am open to answering all those questions, so please let me know. And you guys have a magical day.